each going to have 1 minute to answer this question. And the question is, what do we want our children to become, to know, and to be able to do by the time they leave your school setting? You know, whether that's a primary school or high school, by the time you send them out the door, what are your greatest hopes for your students? And it's open-ended. And what I find remarkable, and granted, like, I set this up on purpose this way, and the question might be leading in this direction, but I've given this presentation a number of times now to hundreds of different educators, and invariably, I think only one person has ever said something related to academic skills. So what we really want in our hearts as educators for our students are these social and emotional skills. And yet, you know, most of our focus, most of our time is on academic rigor, academic success, scores, you know, all of these things. And these skills are not something that can be measured on a standardized test. And they're not something typically that we dedicate a lot of time in our schedules towards. You know, social emotional learning is this thing we do during advisory once a week, and it's sort of relegated to that realm in most schools. There are some schools that are certainly exceptions to that. But if we as educators want this, how do we begin to create that? And how do we begin to start shifting towards emphasizing the whole child, not neglecting academic rigor and academic success, but incorporating what we really want for our students? And where this came from actually is Maurice Elias, if any of you are familiar with his work. He's a blogger on social emotional learning, and he says whenever he partners with a school, he asks the teachers a couple of questions, and one of the first questions he asks is, you know, what kind of school would you want for your children? And what he says is that a lot of times, if he's asking about their children specifically, the parents might immediately respond with, well, I want them to be set up for success in college, I want them to have academic rigor, you know, I want them to really have high achieving test scores. And then he'll say, okay, what kind of school would you want for your grandchildren? I don't know if any of you have grandchildren, but invariably the answer there is I'd want them to feel safe, I'd want them just, you know, if they don't get their homework in on time, I'd want that to be okay, I'd want, you know, more time for grandma. So thinking about maybe also the types of schools that we want for our grandchildren when we think about how we're designing social emotional learning is this really warm, supportive, safe place.